The truth is inside of us, and it's wonderful when we have the courage to tell it.
And the truth shall set you free!
Welcome to 8192 The Truth with Brother San and the Godfather. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also follow the show on Twitter at 8192 The Truth and on Facebook at facebook.com/8192 The Truth.
Yo, everybody, what is up? This is Brother Sin, Kevin, coming at you. So we've had a little hiatus since last week on the show, a little over a week. To be honest, I've had one in the can. I did a pretty lengthy one last week. Covered a lot of stuff, pre-fight and world around us stuff. But I couldn't bring myself to release it for a couple reasons. And the more I thought about it, and the more I sat on it and I stewed over it, I've just changed my whole course, my whole direction with how I'm looking at things, with how I'm responding and reacting to things. And we say we're going to talk about the truth here, the real truth behind what's going on. And I'm going to give you my truth. So take this for what it is. Take it as gospel from my mouth. But I'm done. I am done with the online, pardon my language, the bullshit. I am done with the constant petty bickering. I'm done with the asinine ignorance, especially in the world of politics. Now, we've said it before, I think Joel is 100% on the wrong side of the political argument about what's going on and who's behind it. But he has an absolute and utter valid point about getting the hell off of Facebook and blocking that nonsense from your life. And I'm putting out the warning now. I love you guys. I love my listeners, our listeners. I have a lot of correspondence with many of you. But I don't care at this point what side of the aisle you're on, for Trump, against Trump, Democrat, anti-liberal. I don't care what your stance is. I'm done. Don't come at me with any of it. I am absolutely sick and tired of the childish, ridiculous behavior by people, arguing back and forth, most oftentimes neither having a logical course of thought behind what they're saying. And I'm sick of it. I am absolutely sick of liberals pulling articles from 3 years ago, commenting on them, bringing them up now, posting them on Facebook, trying to denigrate and insult our President of the United States about something he said 3 years ago. Digging this shit up, and again, I apologize for my language, but this nonsense to strengthen an argument about how he is constantly unfit, how he is a moron, how he should not be this and that, whatever it is. I'm done. I am done. And the same goes for people on the right. Yes, I fall in line with the right. I believe in the conservative values. I believe in the Republican values. But I'm done with the arguing. We're not changing anyone's mind. So why constantly come at somebody in response? I don't see people on the right constantly posting the articles and the information and trying to jab at people, but they are just as bad by constantly responding, by throwing fuel on the fire. I can't deal with it anymore. So regardless of what side you're on, if you come at me with a political post in any nature, I'm sorry, man. I'm done. I'm not going to block you. I'm not going to unfriend you, but I'm going to snooze you. I'm going to give you a chance to just cool off, maybe find another course of action, maybe find something else to talk about. And then in a month, in a few weeks, you'll pop back a couple of my news feed, and hopefully it's something more coherent and more refreshing. But I am sick and tired of being sick and tired of being stressed out about this shit. I've aligned myself to give up on it. I've decided it is not worth my stress, my energy, my thoughts. Now, I support our veterans. I support my father, the veteran, the Marine. I support our president. I support anyone who stands behind and defends the almighty stars and bars. But I've also aligned myself to the fact that this is not the country that my father served in the Marine Corps to defend. This is not the same country that my dear friend Brian served to defend 10 years ago. It is not. I honestly, and this is the truth, and I hate to admit it, I have lost all faith that this country can be governed in a legitimate, fair, respectful way, the way that this constitutional republic is supposed to be governed. I've lost all faith. This nonsense with this election now, the nonsense in Florida, all this bullcrap that's happening in Broward County with disputing the election, then all of a sudden 5 million votes are just suddenly found that weren't there at the original counting, that they just appeared out of nowhere, delaying the electronic machine count so they can throw in all these mysterious papers, all this nonsense. I'm done. I have no faith that this country can be fairly governed anymore. So I am solely going to focus on and worry about what goes on between the four walls of my home with my beautiful family and what I can impact directly in my small world here in Canton, Ohio. Outside of that, I'm done. I will continue to pray for peace and for the well-being of everyone around the world, everyone in my country. I will continue to pray for their health, their well-being, and their prosperity from coast to coast, from border to border. But I am done stressing about it. I am done getting worked up about what's going on in the Democratic Party, about what's going on in Southern California, what's going on anywhere out of my arm's reach. That is all I can control. That is all I can impact. And that is all I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on being the best human that I can be, the best husband and father I can be, raising the best children that I can raise, and just praying that that is enough to impact this world and maybe getting it back on course to being the country that my father served to defend. Because right now it's not. It's not the same place it was 10 years ago. It's not the same world it was 5 years ago. Statistically, we are safer than any time in history, yes. Statistically, we are healthier than any time in human history, yes. But this society, this American culture, we are not getting any better. This is not an improvement of what it was yesterday. It's not an improvement of what it was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We may be living longer. We may be sheltered from disease and disaster and war more than any time in history. But we are not creating a more prosperous life for ourselves. Not by any means. And I'm done worrying about it. And that is the truth. So now that I got that out of the way, hopefully you understand why I didn't release an episode last week, because a big part of the episode was me on a rant about the nonsense following the election, and I just couldn't bring myself to allow that to represent me. Yeah, it may be good fodder for entertainment. It may make for an interesting listen, but I just can't let that be who I am anymore. So I'm sorry if that upsets you guys, but I'm done. And I gotta say, man, I am praying for the people in California with these fires. I'm sure you guys are seeing this. It is awful. I know we've got a lot of fans out there. Our Dos Leprechauns guy, Jason, I don't think he's in that exact part of Southern California. He's more inland, but still, he's out there, man, and I know you guys are dealing with it, and I'm praying for you. It baffles me that we've got people like Elon Musk who's so concerned with flamethrowers to put in everyone's home and getting people to Mars and all this nonsense, but they cannot find a way to desalinate the Pacific Ocean, which is 100 yards across the PCH from these fires, and they can't do anything to help put them out. They've got a boundless amount of water, and they can't use it. It blows my mind. I truly think the innovative geniuses and the people with all the money in this country need to stop worrying about how to make a cooler frickin' smartphone. Stop worrying about making iPhone 11. And they ought to start worrying about how we can eliminate so many of these horrible forest fires year after year and how we can use the damn water. Work on desalination and forget about the smartphones. It's much more important to society. I promise you that. And yes, I do feel bad that the president that I do support came out and said anything about the forestry service out there and mismanagement. Is it true? Yes, and I will tell you why in a moment. However, the timing was off. He could have waited till it was all said and done, till everyone was safe, accounted for, the fires were put out, until we could start to move on. And then he could come out and make his point. And his point was, with mismanagement, it is true. They are giving a huge amount of funding year after year. And from what I've read and researched, they are not doing their job in clearing out the deceased vegetation in Southern California, in those woods where these fires are constantly happening. And these deceased, dead, dried trees with the lack of precipitation out there are just ripe to be kindling. They go up like a box of matches every single time. And the people in that forestry service, I pray for them. I hope that they all make it out of this. I hope that they can control it and move on. But there is validity that they are mismanaging a lot of what they're being given. And there's things that they could be doing on an ongoing basis to help minimize and mitigate some of these disasters. They are not clearing out these forests as they should be on a yearly basis. And that is serving to increase the problem. And I believe that is what the president was referring to. And again, I do not agree with his timing when he made the statement. It was not appropriate. But as with most things he said, it's not always poignant, it's not always polished, but there's always truth behind what he's saying. He doesn't say things that aren't true. He doesn't say things that don't have validity. He just doesn't always say them at the right time or in the right manner. But I pray for these people. I mean, celebrities, common people, everybody in Malibu. I mean, you've seen Miley Cyrus, Gerard Butler, Neil Young, all their homes, just to name a few, burned to the ground. I mean, complete ashes. I've heard Joe Rogan talk on his show how about they've been evacuated from his home. And I mean, not that it's any better or any worse when it's celebrities over plain common folk, but it brings more light to the issue because more people recognize it, and when they put a face to the flame and to the disaster and the tragedy, it becomes that much more real. And it's just it's awful, absolutely awful. So I pray for them. I hope they get it under control. And apparently the fire farther up north is even worse, the worst fire in the history of California. I mean, we've got a town, Paradise, California. We've got one sole State Farm agent out there, and the whole town's gone, absolutely gone, wiped to the ground, nothing but ashes, and that's just heartbreaking. Something's got to be on. California is far too wonderful. Yes, they've got their liberal problems. My gosh, do they? And their ways of living. I don't agree with some of it, but it is an amazing, beautiful state. I've lived there. I love it. It's, Southern California, San Diego, Manhattan Beach, Malibu. I've stayed on houses in Malibu. It might be my favorite place on earth. So I hope, I pray and I hope that they can come through this without any more death and tragedy and just get this put out. And God bless those firefighters, man. I can't even imagine what it takes to stand there and face those flames for days on end and fight the good fight, man. So I hope we all say a little prayer for them, and I just hope that this ends soon. So let's move on now that we've got the somber stuff out of the way. What a fight weekend, man. There's some great fights. Obviously, the two big fights on the card, Platinum Mike Perry versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. What a fight that was. Didn't make it out of the first round, but man, some bad blood going into that. We had talked about before Donald Cerrone, who's been a Jackson Winklejohn guy for years. All of a sudden now, Mike Perry had recently moved down there to that camp as well prior to his last fight. Looked much improved, but Donald, who's been there, for 20 UFC wins plus his time in the WEC, etc. And now all of a sudden Perry's down there, and Jackson and Winklejohn decide that they're going to corner Mike Perry in this fight as opposed to Cowboy, who's been a lifelong guy down there. So that caused some real hard feelings, some bad blood in this. So it's kind of a grudge match for Cowboy. And honestly, Perry looked great in his last fight. He looked much improved since going down there to Jackson's. His striking was better. He was more, he was smooth. He was more poised. He just looked good, and he is big and thick. I'll tell you what, he's a big boy. So he's bringing a lot to this fight. But Cowboy, man, Cowboy did what Cowboy does, and he survived some onslaught of the punches. They went to the ground late in the first round, and Cowboy managed to gain position and get that armbar, and actually broke Perry's arm. Won via armbar submission. So great fight, great win for Cowboy. Puts him at number 21 in victories, which is number 1 on the all-time UFC victory list, passing George St. Pierre as well as Michael Bisping. So as it's been talked about, a sure Hall of Famer, maybe now moved clearly past Uriah Faber as the greatest UFC fighter to never win a belt. In my eyes, it's got to be Chael, Uriah, and Donald. And, Cowboy with victory number 21, I think that puts him up there. So surefire Hall of Famer, even if he never wins a belt. But great fight. And now he says he's going back to 155, which, I like him at 170. I think he's good. He's strong. And he showed that he can compete with the much thicker, stronger guys. But I think he just feels his best shot for one more run is at 155 with the middleweight, or the lightweights. I'm sorry. So we shall see. But great win for him. And then the headliner, fight of the year up to this point, just absolutely incredible, with Yair Rodriguez versus the Korean Zombie. Great fight back and forth. I mean, they bloodied each other. I mean, just action from start to finish. And as most of the scorecards showed, Korean Zombie leading going into that final round. And then last second, a bit of a scuffle, some punches thrown. Yair Rodriguez ducks, tries to get under some punches, and then throws the most incredible upward no-look elbow that you will ever see in mixed martial arts. Maybe outside of maybe Anthony Pettis, roundhouse off the cage, this may be the greatest knockout in the history of the UFC. I mean, literally 1 second on the clock. The bent over, no look upward elbow, flatlined Korean Zombie. He hit the mat as the final bell sounded. Literally a win at 4:59 of the final round with that knockout. And he was out cold. I mean, I don't know how you can plan and prepare a move like that at practice, and maybe you don't, but it could not have been more perfectly timed. And like I said, just put him out cold. He was down. And then if you've seen the pictures of the two afterward and laying in the hospital beds beside each other, it was reminiscent of the Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler brawl when they were just beaten to a pulp and trying to smile, and you could barely recognize their faces. I mean, that's how the Zombie and Yair were after this fight. Just incredible spectacle. Fight of the year by far. I think it's definitely knockout of the year. One of the best knockouts I've seen ever. Joe Rogan had mentioned his fight companion. He loved it, but he thought that maybe the Francis Ngannou uppercut of Alistair Overeem might be a little better just because of, the spectacle and the heavyweights and so forth. But this, a bent over upward no look elbow, just incredible. You'll never see that again, ever. I can almost guarantee you'll never see that happen again. So incredible fight card. Absolutely. I just couldn't get enough of it. Just was awesome. Definitely could have been a pay-per-view the way those guys performed. Got another card coming up this weekend. We've got Neil Magny versus Ponzinibbio. And then we also have our past show guest, Darren the Damage Elkins, fighting as well. Magny's been a little hit or miss. Always a talent. Always got huge upside. Just he's in one of those divisions. The 170-pound division is just tough. Middleweight is a very stacked, tough division. He's coming at number 8, 21-7. Ponzinibbio is number 10, 27-3. Ponzinibbio is definitely the bigger, thicker guy. But Magny's always he's always tough. He's a great slick striker, got great kicks, real good accuracy. It's gonna be a good fight. He's got the reach advantage by 7 inches. He's got the leg reach. He's got the 3-inch height advantage. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. And then again, obviously, Ricardo Lamas versus Darren the Damage. Another great fight. Always like to root for Darren, especially being a high school colleague of show producer Kyle. But Lamas ranked number 12, Elkins number 13. Winner of this assuredly probably going to get into the top 10. But both extremely evenly matched, same height, same reach, nearly identical in everything else, as the great Goldie used to say. Everything else nearly identical. So that'll be a good fight, and let's hope for the Damage sake he pulls this one out and gets in the top 10 and continues to climb that lightweight ladder. So it's going to be a good fight card. We've got some great fights coming up here at the end of the year. Following this one, next weekend we've got Ngannou, since his last 2 debacles, getting just trucked by Stipe and outclassed in every way, and then the ridiculous fight with Derek Lewis, where fewest punches thrown in a main event ever, I think is what it was. Just horrible. So we'll see if he's finally gotten rid of his ego and if he's put in some work. Because Curtis Blaydes is no slouch. Curtis Blaydes is an outstanding wrestler, great striker, much improved. And he's climbing the ladder. There's, talk of him being right at the top for, coming up for a title shot. And this is a rematch, so we'll see. But, Blaydes number 3, Ngannou number 4. It's going to be great. And then Overeem also on that card. First fight card over there in Beijing. So we'll see how that goes. But it's just good, man. We've had it's been a really good year for fights. We've talked about it before. Last year, there was a lot of talk how the UFC had a real down year, coming in since they made that deal with WME for the $4 billion sale. And then, they just kind of deflated and just was not putting out the same product that they once were. But I think it's been a complete turnaround this year. They've had some extremely exciting fights, maybe not necessarily same pay-per-view numbers that they once had, maybe not their best pay-per-view year, but just some outstanding moments. We had Stipe taking on the hype train Ngannou and shutting him down. Then we had Stipe DC becoming the champ. We had, Khabib come back, have a couple of fights. He beat Raging Al on short notice. And then obviously the Conor fight, and then Tony Ferguson coming back, that great fight with Pettit. It's just been a great year for fights, top to bottom. Nothing as a fan that we can complain about. And that's just UFC. I think Bellator's had a fantastic year as well. with this tournament. I mean, I think it was a brilliant move for them to bring out this heavyweight Grand Prix. Granted, I wish they would have shortened the time frame, made it a little more exciting, maybe squeeze it into a couple months as opposed to over an entire year. But I like the format. I like the idea of them doing back-to-back shows on Friday and Saturdays. They're doing that again here in a couple of weeks in Hawaii. They're doing back-to-back Friday and Saturday night shows. But that was great here with the semis, the heavyweight Grand Prix with Mitrione and Bader on Friday night in Mohegan Sun, and then Fedor and Chael on Saturday at Nassau. So I really like that. And now they're running their welterweight tournament as well. I like the tournament format. As Chael has always said on his show, it's much more aligned to the true competitive nature, much more aligned to wrestling, where it's a straight bracket format. There's no subjectivity to it. It's bracket set. You win, you move on. You lose, you don't. No politics, no subjectivity, just straight line. Here's how you get to the title. This is how you can win. You want a shot? This is what you're going to do. Cut and dry, black and white, very simple. So I like that, and I think it's exciting. Hopefully, maybe we'll see some of that in the UFC. Who knows? And then again, with the trade now with Ben Askren, Mighty Mouse, and that fight being announced, the Askren-Robbie Lawler, maybe we'll get some cross-promotional fights. I think that would be extremely exciting for some of those very top-tier guys in the other promotions to maybe come over and test their mettle against the UFC guys, especially, a Mike Chandler. Gegard Mousasi has already been over here. Rory's already been over here. But, some of these guys, and Aaron Pico, he's a fast rising star in Bellator. Guy's got some of the best body shots I've ever seen. So it really is opening up the door for some real highlight moments that we're going to see in MMA. And I think the sport, it hit its high point, and then it came down a little bit. And like I said, it got a little deflated, and was really struggled a bit to find its way. If it's going to be pure entertainment, if it's going to be straight sport competition, they've found a way to interweave a little of both. They're not too high on the entertainment side. We don't have 50 Connors running around. We've got a few. We've got Colby. We've got Connor. We've got a few guys that like to be the mouthpiece, but then we've also got a whole roster of guys that just want to get in there, throw hands, do what they do, and leave that, do the talking. So I think they found a great mix, and I'm really looking forward to the future of the sport and where it evolves from here. Am I the only one who routinely gets their ass kicked in fantasy football? Because I just can't seem to win. I know as much about football as any average Joe, more so than most probably. I played college ball. I know a good amount about the NFL. I know football. How do I continually, year after year when I play, get my ass handed to me? Do I not spend enough time on my roster? Because I don't understand how people have 4 and 5 leagues and they're making money, they're winning. To really be good, are you constantly scanning the waiver wires? Are you constantly making trade offers? I thought you pick a good team up front, which I thought I did. Good stars, top couple picks each round, and that was enough. But is it something that you really have to dedicate a lot of time to, or is it really just luck of the draw? Anybody out here who's into fantasy and good at it with success, please let me know for future years. Because I'm not going to keep spending money in these leagues with friends to get my butt handed to me and be embarrassed. I just don't get it. I don't know if it's something that people literally spend hours a day researching, opponents, success, all that kind of stuff, all the different sabermetrics in football. Is that what people do? Do people have that much time on their hands? Because I don't. If that's what it takes, man, I might just have to start going one free league a year, and that's it. Because I do not have the time. I barely have the time to think straight. I have got 4 small children under 6, and I am finding out more and more I'm a lousy father. I'll tell you that. Not in the bad role model, bad person kind of way, but My God, I am great at the big gestures, great Christmas, family trips, big memory type things. I'm great at that. But I'm not very good in the day-to-day, man. I just get overwhelmed. I don't have a choice but keep up with it and keep moving forward and do my best. But I get overwhelmed with this stuff. I get stressed. I get freaked out. Some days I'm just about to lose my damn mind. And it's the lot in life that I've chosen for myself. I'm not asking for pity. I'm not blaming anyone else. But it is not easy. And I've got a lot of work to do to be a better person on the day-to-day, to be a better every minute of every day father, spending more time, giving more attention, being more thoughtful. I need to work on that because these kids have got me worn down. I don't get to the gym near enough. My needs and priorities have long gone the way of the dodo. And that's okay. That's the life I've chosen. But you don't truly know what you're in for until you're in it. You think you can handle it. You think it'll be okay. I'll find a way to get to the gym. I'll get up at 5 in the morning and go, I'll do this. I'll do that. I can manage the family life. I can manage being me and fit it all in. It'll be hard, but I'll make it work. No, it doesn't work like that. It is far tougher than people lead on. And please stay off of social media if you have any of these feelings, because seeing these people, The Rock and Cam Hanes and Mark Wahlberg and Jocko Willink and any of these people that are showing you pictures of their watch in the gym every day at 4:30 a.m. and they're up every day and they're training and they're getting everything in and they're still hustling and they're succeeding and making money. That's not everybody. Those people are anomalies. I'll tell you what, if I'm getting up at 4:30 a.m. to go to the gym, that means I'm in bed by 8 o'clock. And if I'm in bed by 8 o'clock, then my wife is pissed at me because then I've left her alone to deal with 4 kids every night. And it's not happening. There's feeding, there's packing lunches, there's baths, there's stories, there's bedtime. There's no way I'm getting in bed before 10:30, 11 o'clock on any given night, which means there's no way I'm getting up 4:30, 5 o'clock to get to the gym routinely. This life is hard. Finding the balance is hard. And that's the truth. Don't let people tell you it's easy. Don't feel that you are failing or you are lesser of a father, of a husband, because you're not doing these things. You're lesser of a man because you're not training as much as some of these people. You're not able to have this kind of body, make this kind of money, do this kind of stuff with your family. People that post that stuff on social media are the anomaly. Granted, I'm guilty of posting pictures of trips and vacations and things we do because there are times when we are part of the fortunate few that can travel more than most and we can do some things that cost money. Not always, but there are times when that works out in our favor. But it's not because I'm trying to brag or make people feel that anybody can do it, because you can't. Everybody, has limitations physically, mentally, but also situationally. There are things that I would love to do that I just can't because of my family and my responsibilities. And that's okay. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you guys, is that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel bad, to feel frustrated, to feel worn down, to feel less than, because it is part of being human. And you are not alone. I'm home today. I work from home on Tuesdays with my kids. And it was supposed to be just the youngest two. But my 4-year-old daughter was up all night throwing up. So she stayed home from school today. So now I'm home with 3, trying to work from home with a 1.5-year-old that wants total attention, with a 3-month-old that requires total attention, and a sick 4-year-old that just wants to be daddy's best friend and sit on my lap. It is hard. I'm losing my mind today. I can hear one cackling and crying over in the side. Not crying, obviously I would attend to her, but just moaning and doing the baby thing. I can hear that. It's ongoing. And I'm trying to work. I'm trying to do my job, trying to make money for my family. But basically today I'm losing my damn mind. And it's one of those days where I have to remember that it's okay to feel bad about what I'm doing, to feel bad about myself, and say, hey, it is life. It will be life. This is what you signed on for. Buck up, accept it, have your moment of pity, and then pull up the bootstraps and move on. Because some days it's harder than others, I will tell you that. But it always gets better, and it is always, always, always worth it. Always worth it. When I give my 2-year-old son a fig bar or Cheetos or anything, a piece of fruit, whatever it may be, and he looks at me, smiles, and then takes off running and says, "Thank you, Dada," as he runs into the other room, well, that makes everything worth it. Those moments, those words, those memories, those individual little things that will freeze in my mind forever, that makes all the struggle worth it. So remember that. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to stress. It's okay to lose your damn mind. But just remember, there's a reason you chose that. And it is always worth it. So that's where I'm at today, folks. The last thing I'm going to end on is go Irish. We are 10-0, number 3 in the polls. We are poised to make the national title game. We got number 13 Syracuse this week, who will be tough. They got a great offense, but I just don't think they're on our level. And then we got those bums from USC next week. And then we ought to be looking pretty for the playoffs. Pretty for the playoffs, and we're going to make it to the title game, which will be no easy feat with Alabama. Every year, every team has to deal with Alabama. They've got an NFL-level roster, but this may be our year. This is the best team we've had since '88. Since we had Zorich man in the D-line, since we had Tony Rice in the Rocket lighting up the scoreboard. This is our year. Go Irish. Go green. This is it. To everybody else, I'm sorry. It's not your year. Until next time, peace.